there. How's everyone doing? So, what are we going to do today? Let's see. If I remember correctly, we wrapped up with code coverage. We had 100% green test, meaning all our test cases passed, and full coverage of the domain, logic, and logic test level. The only thing we have uncovered is the console app, which we decided we are not going to cover. So let's make sure everything is still working, and then we'll move towards the next part of it. Everything is successful. Run all tests. Make sure our code. Oops, I did run all tests instead of running code coverage. Cover all tests. And all of our tests are there. Cool. So now what we want to do is go through and separate out our domain classes from the domain classes that we are using inside of our data class. You're probably wondering to yourself, hey Joe, why are we doing that? Or just wondering why Joe is talking to himself in third person. For the most part, the reason for it is lots of built up hostility. Now, the real reason is we want to keep the implementation of our data storage mechanism away from the actual business entities. So you could imagine the business entities as these types that help describe what we want to do. So we have, as a refresher, a contact. A contact has one or more addresses and one or more phone numbers. How we actually store those in a backend database shouldn't really matter to the consumer. They want a copy of this contact and its associated fields. Right now, within our current implementation, we are using a direct reference to contacts.domain.models. Depending on who you speak to and their philosophy, some people actually do this and keep them tightly coupled. I would argue that in most cases you don't want to do that. You want to have them extremely decoupled, meaning they really don't know about each other. There's always some middleman in between, or middle person in between, that is doing that separation. Typically, the repository manager, service manager, depending on how you look at it, does that. So for here, we have this domain object that has a contact and one or more addresses. It's not going to be as clear with the SQLite implementation because it's a kind of one-to-one. We built a contacts table, we built an addresses table, a phone address type, and phone types table to accommodate for that. Moving forward, we might move this off to a document database like CosmoDB or Azure Blob Storage or DynamoDB. As a result, we might actually store each contact as an individual record. So we want to kind of future-proof our application. So let's go through and kind of do that. So in order to do that, we are going to need to create a series of models here. So let's go and add a actually we're going to add it to the SQLite because this has our specific implementation of it. So here we have the contact and the data store. So we're going to add to this. So let's go and add a model. And let's do that in a different directory and call it models. Inside the data, we are going to create a new class called contact. Oops, not a new text file, new class, Joe. How you doing? Anyone watching in there? Say hi in the chat so I know you're there. Otherwise, it's just me talking to myself, which is always fun. I tend to win most of the conversations. It's the ones I lose I worry about. Let's create a contact. Yes, I want to add to get. So instead of boring everyone with all of the create, add, I am just going to copy. Why is that listed as a separate window? Hello. Ooh, Acrylic Hercules. It's an awesome name. Unbreakable plastic. Is that what it's around? Hello. Kaylissa? Did I get that right? That's a new name. 2 new followers or 2 new viewers. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you get something out of it. We're working on a contact application that we built from scratch. If you want to follow along with it, you can check out this GitHub repo, github.com/jwadagno/contacts, which I will put in the chat. From here, there it goes. From here, you should be able to follow along. If you go into the outline page, the outline page has a step-by-step of everything we've done for it. We started walking through different integrated development environments, Visual Studio Code, and JetBrains Writer. I'll be using JetBrains Writer for this. And then how we built out the contacts, how we built out the management, data layer, and so on. You can always click on the video to see the video on YouTube or go directly to the source code to see the commit with that code base. So we are about 10 or 15 presentations into it now, and we are heading towards the data objects. Later on, probably next week, we'll work on adding an API for all this. So let's go back here. I am going to take our domain objects. Where are they? Here they are. And just copy and paste them. These are all going to exist just like it did before, but we will eventually tweak them. Edit, copy, edit, paste. Oh yeah, I know I copied contact. Let's copy all the others but contact. Or just delete contact for now to make it easier. Yes. Now this will be a lot clearer once we go towards using a different data store, but for now, everything is going to be pretty much the same. Yes, I want to add them to version control. Now it's going to complain that the models are on the wrong case. So we want to move these all to the data SQLite models. And the reason for that, when we start going forward with these models, or start moving forward with a different data store, we can now change out what's happening here and not affect the user interface. If we move database technologies or move the backend storage, everything will work as we expected. And we'll validate that with tests. So now I created all the models. at some point we're going to change these, and I'll play through some of the tests. Sorry, I forgot to mute my phone. My son's in from out of town right now, so we've been playing Xbox, and we were playing, and I was like, oh, I got 3 more minutes till I was supposed to go and start streaming, so we went and killed it. So here we notice our using statements are using the context.domain models. We don't want that for this anymore. We want the context.data.models. Now we're using this collection of models here. Once these models are here, we need to do some kind of conversion from the domain model contact to the SQLite model contact. In this case, it's kind of a one-to-one. We can probably get rid of all this extra stuff because we are going to exclude the whole thing from code coverage because we don't really want to cover these models. Come on, work with me here. I put on the namespace. That really should be on the class itself. Hey Woody, how you doing? Hopefully you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend. Maybe some barbecuing and such. You guys do anything fun? Or acrylic Hercules or Glassilla? I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry. Hopefully you guys and ladies had fun with it. Let's see, I can get rid of this full name because we really just want the true models for this, and I think all the others are basically blank. Yep, they're all blank. Cool. So now we notice here that our SQLite data store is breaking now. It's expecting to return a contact, which if we look at it is using a domain model contact, which is exactly what we want. We want it to go back up, but we don't really care how it's stored and retrieved. Camping and fishing. I'd love to go camping. We had friends of ours that we used to go camping with all the time, and they moved back home to Idaho. We haven't found anyone since. Being in Arizona, we have lots of great places for camping and fishing. We never did the real fishing thing. My son did it a lot, but still great to just be out there and relax. I've been kind of homebound for 7 or 8 weeks now, so I miss all of that. In Arizona, we got so many places to go camping. Wish I was with you. I'm glad you had fun with it. I got a nice 4-day weekend coming up, which is just me staying at home and working on my laptop. So here we have the SQLite data store is failing because it's expecting to return back a contact, but our code is converting or expecting a context.data.sqlite.models.context. So what you're going to see here is see if I can zoom in on that. Cannot convert, it doesn't give me enough room, but essentially cannot convert expression from one type to another. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that conversion. The most common way is to do something like var db this is a single contact, and then do this, and that gets us a contact, and then we do some kind of var contact equals new contact, and then do contact ID equals db contact.contact ID, comma, what do we have? Anniversary equals db contact.anniversary. But that is a royal pain. What's the matter with the mic? Can we not hear me? Let's see. Playing around with a couple of things. The mic is showing me at full volume. It's choppy. I did some moving around on my desk, so maybe the position of the microphone got a little messed up. Let's try this out and see how that works. Let me know if it gets better. I'll keep an eye on it. According to the audio gauge, I'm at the right height for volume. Is it still choppy, Woody? I can do a test. 1, 2, 3. Talk about lovely code, Visual Studio Code, everything. The audio looks like it's coming out clear. I'm not seeing any drop packets or anything. Did the moving of the webcam or the microphone help? I'll keep talking until I see someone that answers. Okay, good. I put together a couple of blog posts over the last 3 or 4 days around my blogging and streaming setup, because a lot of my friends and people I chat with on Twitter have been asking me about it. So this weekend I did software. Yes, no, it's good. Yes, no, it's bad. Now I'm confused, Woody. I did some playing around and moving the equipment and messing around with some of the software settings. So I double checked everything. Let me check the network stats. According to the audio, everything is good. Let me lower the volume and see if maybe it's peaking too much. Looks like it's good. Let me turn off the fan and see if that's it. Alexa, turn off office fan. Maybe there's some background noise messing it up. I could move the microphone a little bit closer to me, but if it's choppy, it's probably not that. It might be the bandwidth. Streamlabs saying everything is good. No CPUs. Frames per second is good. Upload speed is good. I'll keep chatting, and if it gets too much, let me know, and I'll mess around and see if I can play with some of the settings some more and fix it. So we can do something like this, where we take a copy of the DB contact, create a contact, and then just return the new contact, and that will do everything we need to do. The challenge with that, the gain is too high. Oh, could be the gain is too high. I did tweak something with that, and with the microphone moving closer, that might be the case. Thank you, Acrylic Hercules. Give me 1 second and I could fix that. Yeah, it kept peaking out as red, so I'm going to try to lower the gain and see. One of the things I've noticed with it, let's see if that's better. One of the things I've noticed is that these settings are not, they don't kind of keep, the settings themselves keep, but like I can come in one day and my green screen is totally perfect and clear like it is today. That's only because I had to tweak it again to get it right. And the same thing happens for the microphone. But granted, the microphone I did move and reposition. I was doing some other work on the desk and ended up moving the microphone. It's not in my normal spot. It looks like I'm not peaking in the audio anymore. I'm not turning red. Does it sound better, like Hercules or Woody? I will keep talking one more time to see a little bit against it. Pretty much the same. For a change, Streamlabs is not complaining. Let me see if I can lower it a little bit more, if that helps. Lowered the gain. See if that helps. Noise gate. That should be fine. Compressor. Okay, good. Thank you. I lowered the gain a lot. Okay. I don't know why the gain hasn't actually changed in days. So maybe because I moved the microphone closer, it's stronger. Well, thank you guys and or ladies for helping out with that. So I'll start from the beginning here. So one of the things you notice here is the context is complaining, mostly because it's expecting a list of domain contact, but Entity Framework is now returning a list of SQLite.models.contact. So there's pretty much two ways to go and tweak this. I can do something like this where I do a find and then get that into the data object, in this case, DB contact, then create a new instance of contact and go one by field and say equals this, and keep going. That works for small things. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 objects. Not terrible, but if I keep doing that over and over again, and if I add a new field, I'm gonna get a problem. Luckily, oops, wrong way. Luckily, there is this cool NuGet package that you can add called Automapper. If you go to Automapper, essentially it does what the name says. Take from this object, translate it to this object, and it uses convention-based mapping. So if you have a field called first name and the object you have is has a field called first name, it'll map them all with little to no work. All you essentially have to do is do this, create map, and pass it across. So let's go and see how we do that fairly easily. So the first thing is we need to go and add in that NuGet package. So let's do Automapper. It's the first one in there. So I'm going to do Automapper and put it in our context.data.SQLite. Click add and install. Okay, it was successfully installed. Now Automapper is going to need something called a mapping or a profile. Depending on what version you used, if you've used it in the past, you might have had to create individual maps. The authors of the package have moved more towards something called a profile. So if we look at the Getting Started guide, tells you real quick, easy way of doing it. You can create what's called a mapper config and then call create mapper. Some of this will be a little bit harder at the beginning because we're not using any real dependency injection or anything like that. So we right now we're just going to do it kind of hard-coded by hand, which I think is important because we want to learn some of that stuff. So we are going to do look at profiles. So where is that bit on profiles? Come on, Jimmy, where are you? Profiles, profiles, profiles. Da, 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 da. There is a quick start guide to it. I could cheat and look it up. I have a sample working with it, but I want to kind of show how I figured it out. So we did this part already, did that with the user interface. Now, how do we actually go and use it? Let's go to the Getting Started guide. Here's a very, very long list of things you can do. This is if you want to do the basic mapping. This is if you want to go beyond the basic mapping of like first name and first name. So let's look at the configuration. We're not going to go through anything super complicated right now. So here you can do a mapper configuration or create a profile instance. I personally like to create a profile instance for one reason, actually for two reasons. The first is testability. You can actually import and move around this profile a lot easier. That's the first. The second thing is all your code is in one spot for all your mapping as opposed to in each individual class. So let's go and do that. So we need to create something called profile, or something that inherits from the class profile. In most cases, there is a, by convention, you don't have to do this. You map it to, or you call the name of the class what you're mapping. In our case, it's context. So we're going to create a context profile and have all the mappings in there. So let's go and do that. So ignore the errors for a second. I'm going to put them in the mapping. You can do it, put it wherever you want. So let's go into our mapping and do add new class. And we are going to call this contact profile. Yes, I want to add, and we are going to inherit the profile class. And now we need to create a constructor for that. Public contact profile. Now, once we have that, we need to go and do all the mapping. So to do all the mapping, it's just create map from which object to which object. So in here, we are going to call create map, and we are going to do from domain.models.contact, and then we want to create the map domain dot, or sorry, not domain, SQLite data store dot, oops, what do I call it? A SQLite. SQLite dot models dot contact. And we can actually get rid of this. So you're going to want to do this for each class if there is a one-to-one mapping. And we'll see in a future episode how we can do more complex mapping. So here I'm copying and pasted to do things like address and address, address type, and address type, and then phone and phone type. Oh, this is phone, and I put the wrong phone in there. And then phone type, and then phone type. So that says anytime I get a reference to domain models.contact, create a mapping to contacts.domain.sqlite.models.contact. And unfortunately, I could be wrong about this, but I have not found a way. You have to do the opposite. I gotta imagine there is a way to do that. I just don't know what it is. So I manually just do this. So now I have this. Oops, don't want to do that. Take these out. Now once I'm done with these, I will have the models drawn out. So now I can map across back and forth in between the two of these. But how do I do that, you ask? Quite simple. So let's go back to our data store and let's get rid of all this. Actually, we're not going to get rid of all this. We're just going to get rid of this. So easy way to do it is now that we have a DB context, we can do a mapper dot, what is it, mapper dot map. Let's get this in text. I think it's mapper dot map. The syntax changed in like version 8 of it. So I'm used to the old mapper dot. Oh yeah, it is. I have to create a new mapper because we're not using dependency injection yet. I have to create the new mapper and get to it. Once we get dependency injection working in the application, we can start doing it. So we do a mapper.map configuration. I think I can put in the profile here, new mapper. And I think I can just add in a profile. Nope. It's a lot harder with dependency injection. New var config equal new mapper. No, I don't want that. How do I use the profile? Profile configuration. Profile, new mapper config. Oh, there it goes. Config that profile. So I want to use this section right here. This section right here. So ignore those lines here. New mapper config. Get rid of this. And then this should be, what do we call it? Contact profile, I believe. Contact profile. Now I should be able to do this. And then we want to map to a domain dot models dot contact, and let's get you up here. And want to get you into a DB contact. And this could be a return, or we can do var contact equals, and then do this return contact. So to clear it up, we are doing, we created the configuration telling Automapper to use this configuration. We're going to use the profile called contact profile, create a new mapper, and then do the map. Since we don't have dependency injection in here yet, we are going to create a fake one, read only, and this is going to be a mapper in Automap and call it underscore mapper. And let's instantiate it here. And this is going to be underscore mapper. And what are you complaining about? You want to rename to local variable. That's only because it doesn't see me using it anymore. Now here, we just do that and we are good to go. I could get rid of these too. So now it's a little bit clearer. Now we are saying, go out, get me the contacts, however I have them stored in a database, then Automapper, you go and do the conversion for me. So if I do a breakpoint here, once I get everything working, you will see that this is going to have all the properties that DB contact had in this contact. I hate blue lines. What are you complaining about? Rename local variable, public, read only. Why are you complaining? You are complaining because why do I want to call a mapper? Oh, because I have a var here. Da, 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 da. There it goes. Now it's happy. So now we can go through and do all these mappings. So here we are going to do var contacts equals contacts.toList, and then we are going to return underscore mapper.map list of contact, and then this should have been actually contacts, and then contacts, and there we go. We don't have to purposely tell it that this is going to be a list or do any functional mapping. It's going to look at this contact and say, what do I have to map this to? And it'll work itself out. So let's continue with that. Here we have another one. So let's do var contact equals let's do database contact, only because the contact inside would get messed up, and then do return underscore mapper dot map. This is a list of contact where we pass in the DB contact. And then we got contacts there. Here, let's just do a return to be consistent with the rest of the, actually no, because we're gonna demo that one. So I'm gonna keep that one in there, then we'll refactor it and go back. So here we have this slight difference. So here we're being passed in a domain and we want to convert it to a DB domain. So here we need to do var DB contact equals underscore mapper dot map, and we want to map from we want the output of a domain. No, I don't want domain model contacts. I want a SQLite contacts. SQLite dot models dot contact, and then this is going to take the contact in, and then this gets renamed to DB contact. So now we take the incoming domain contact, map it out to the data store SQLite contact, and save it. And then last one here, let's copy and paste the code. Got to type over and over again. Do the same thing here and rename this to DB contact. And there we go. The code has been migrated to use the domain. But how do we validate that this actually works? Well, luckily we have all of our unit tests. So if I go through and check out our unit tests, let's bring this up a little bit more. Run through all our unit tests, and if we did everything correctly, our unit test should still pass. They're all pending, and they all pass. Voila. Everything is hunky-dory and they all work. I don't remember if we introduced mock to this, so let's double check if we did. I think we are going directly to the database for the... Oh no, we did introduce mocking. So technically we're faking this out, but it's going back and forth, and we can validate it with our console application that is now complaining it's broken. Why are you complaining you're broken? Who broke you? What did I break? Oh. SQLite data store is wanting something. What are you wanting? What are you complaining about? Create new constructor SQLite data store. What do I do to SQLite data store? Oh, how did that get introduced? Must have got introduced when I was playing around with the trying to figure out that variable. Later we're gonna go and wire up a mapper. So let's see how this works. If we are correct, I'm going to uncomment these out so that we can see we actually are updating the database. Let's go and pull up the database. And if we look here at our database, no, I don't want to open a screenshot. We see our latest record is 31. When we run the contact application or the console, we should see this number go to 33 plus another bunch of inputs. Let's go and run the console. So we got the first contact, and we look at the code for it. We just did a get contact with the primary key of 1, so that came back. Then we want to go back and get all the contacts. That worked. Then we wanted to add a contact. That got added. And then we wanted to delete one. The delete failed because we don't have a contact with the ID of 2 in the database, because that got deleted. I could have deleted 17 or so on. Let's go and refresh this and see we added number 33, my wife. Cool. So that was adding in the models to it, introducing Automapper, and knowing that we don't have to pass that around. So our interface didn't change. Our contact repository still expects a domain model going in and expects a domain model coming out. Same thing with our data store. But inside the data store, we take care of all the details of how that record is saved and how it's retrieved from the database. And to verify that, like I said, let's go back, put a breakpoint here, go back to our console, and I'm just going to comment out these and hope I got the syntax correct. Control KC. Yes, it's same on here. And I don't want double quotes there. So we are going to put a breakpoint here, make sure it goes, and let's go and debug this. So now if we look at our contact, Hopefully the screen resolution is good. Or let's take a look at the DB contact first. No cheating. The DB contact has an anniversary of 10/26/96 and email address J Guadagno, Joseph James Guadagno. And that should be all we need to see. Oh, and birth date of 5/31. So if we look at our contact now, our contact has the 10/26/96 as the anniversary, 5/31 as the birthday, and then the email address, first name, last name, middle initial, everything else is correct. So the mapper did all the work for us, which is cool. Didn't seem like much of a big deal for this, but later on, if we start putting all this in one document and have to decompose it, we'll find it to be a lot easier going forward. So I'm going to stop the app so I don't go and add in any new records to it. And I believe that's it. Let's go double check our code coverage to make sure we are good with everything and didn't break the code coverage. I don't think we were testing the repository at all, so that should still be good. Everything is pending, everything's successful. Oh, we ended up improving our code coverage to 95% somehow. I don't know how I did that when it was at 88 before, unless I just didn't recognize the number. I think that is all she wrote for this stream. I think coming up tomorrow or Thursday, I'm going to work on adding a API to our contacts. So we have the contact manager, which has methods for saving, adding, deleting, etc. We are going to go and expose this to an API. And then after we get that in there, we will then look at publishing that off to Azure or something else. So thanks for joining. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out in the chat. If not, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your evening and or morning, depending on what time zone or coast or country you're in. Well, it was fun. Mr. or Mrs. Hercules. That's a really cool name. Much better than J Guadagno. I'm curious, Acrylic Hercules, how did you hear about the stream? Move the webcam over so I can look at this camera now and not have to shape back and forth so I can have a real conversation. Get you out of the way. Ah, cool. Your picture kind of looks familiar from Twitter. I just don't recognize the handle. So thanks for joining. Hopefully you can join a few more coming up. A lot of these, there it goes. I recognize that. A lot of these we're going to be continuing on progressively getting stronger as far as the content and the experience. I might do some extra over the weekend as I play around with new topics, getting things going. Being said, thanks for joining. Thanks for chatting. Sorry about the audio issues. Hopefully they are fixed for the next time. Until we chat again, have a great day. See you hopefully on Thursday. Good night.